All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready.
Awesome. So today we're going to be looking at something pretty incredible, I think.
Okay.
The healing at the Pool of Bethesda.
Hmm.
You know, that story from John 5.
Yes, yes.
It's got everything. A pool, people hoping for miracles, and this guy who'd been sick, like an invalid, for 38 years.
Wow, 38 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, longer than many people even live today,
That's
right?
hard to even imagine.
But here's the thing. Can a story like this from so long ago really tell us anything about, healing and faith today?
Well, I think it can.
And maybe even about, like, the power of our own minds,
Yeah.
our consciousness.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a huge part of it.
So let's dive in. And to really get this story, I think we have to start by understanding how people back then in ancient times thought about healing.
Right. Their worldview was so different from ours.
Yeah, they saw the world, like the physical world and the spiritual world, as totally connected, like almost like the same thing.
Yeah, intertwined, you could say. For them, there wasn't this separation we often have today.
So places like the Pool of Bethesda weren't just random spots on a map. Right?
No, not at all. These were sacred spaces.
Sacred spaces. So like what, like special energy or something?
Exactly. They believed these places were like points where the veil between the physical and spiritual worlds was thinner, like a doorway.
Wow, okay. I'm getting chills already.
You
So they're like brimming with divine energy or whatever.
got it. And the stirring of the water by an angel, no less, that wasn't just some like random current.
Oh, so they actually believed an angel stirred the water?
They did. It was a sign, a moment of divine intervention when miracles were possible.
Okay, so people were like waiting for that moment
Yeah.
to get healed.
Yes. Imagine the hope, the anticipation.
Yeah, you can almost feel it. So this guy we're talking about, paralyzed for all those years, he's waiting, right? Desperate for his chance.
Absolutely.
And then Jesus shows up.
Enter Jesus.
And what does he do? He doesn't send the guy into the water, right?
Yo?
He just heals him right there with a word.
That's right, a command, be healed.
It's like, what's going on here? It doesn't fit the pattern.
It's a break from the expected. I think that's where the story gets really interesting. Because the pool, it represented a very specific view of healing.
Like, do this, get that.
Exactly, a very cause and effect way of thinking, almost mechanical. But Jesus, he bypasses that whole system.
It's like he's saying there's more to healing than just the mechanics.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what is that more? Where does that healing power come from? Is it divine authority? Pure intention?
And here's what blows my mind. He asks the guy, do you want to be made well?
Right.
Yeah.
Such a powerful question.
I mean, it's almost like he's acknowledging the man's role in this whole thing, his own will, like his choice to be healed.
That's a huge point. It raises the whole question of free will and healing. Could it be that on some level, maybe subconsciously, this guy was holding on to his illness?
Whoa, interesting.
Was there a deeper reason for his suffering? Maybe a lesson he needed to learn, or, even something like what some people call karma playing out over those 38 years.
You're going deep now.
Well, that's what a deep dive's all about. The story doesn't give us all the answers, but it definitely makes us think.
It does. It does. Especially that whole 38 years thing. A lifetime of suffering, basically.
Yeah.
If we're looking at this through a metaphysical lens, could it be that time itself plays a role in, spiritual growth?
It's definitely worth considering. What if the time we spend in those challenges grappling with those difficult things is actually like woven into our transformation?
Like, it's not just about getting healed instantly, but it's about the process, the journey.
Exactly. It could be a gradual unfolding with layers of meaning and purpose that we might not even see at first.
Lots to think about there. But we can't forget the symbolism, right? Like the pool itself, the water. These are pretty powerful images.
Powerful archetypes. They speak to something deep within us.
Yeah, water. It's always about cleansing, renewal, rebirth even. Like across cultures, it has this meaning.
And then there's the angel stirring the water. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, angels are always seen as messengers.
Yeah.
Right, like between the divine and us humans.
Exactly. They can act as catalysts for change, conduits for divine energy.
Okay, so the angel stirring the water could symbolize that energy, infusing the pool with healing power. But the fact that Jesus heals the guy directly, like bypassing the whole ritual.
What does that tell you?
Well, it suggests that the real source of the healing might be even deeper, right? Like the pool was a focal point for people's belief, but the power was coming from somewhere else.
You're picking up on something very important here. It's as if the pool was a tangible representation of their hopes and beliefs. But the mechanism, the actual healing force, was operating on a completely different level, a level that Jesus somehow had access to.
And speaking of access, doesn't this whole thing, healing on the Sabbath, kind of challenge the system back then?
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, healing on the day of rest, that's making a statement.
A bold one. And I think it's a statement on multiple levels. On the one hand, it shows that divine will, compassion, true healing, it doesn't follow a schedule, right?
Right.
It doesn't care about rules. On the other hand, it could be a symbolic act, showing that true healing, it can't be contained by rituals or rigid systems.
So it's not just about breaking the rules, but it's pointing to a deeper truth about where real healing comes from.
Exactly.
But then why this guy? Out of all the people there, why did Jesus choose him?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Was it random, divine selection, a matter of grace? Or was there something about the man himself, his inner state, his intention that drew Jesus to him?
Maybe it's all of those things somehow working together. It makes me wonder how much our own internal state, our beliefs, our expectations even influence what we experience, even our physical health.
That's a question that's at the forefront of a lot of thinking today, even in modern science. And that's where things get really interesting. You know, that idea that our consciousness, our beliefs, could actually have a real impact on, well, on reality itself.
Okay, I'm going to need you to unpack that one for me. I mean, that's some pretty deep stuff.
It is. But it's something that modern metaphysics is starting to explore more and more. The idea that our thoughts, our intentions, even our energy might actually have a measurable effect on the world around us.
Hold on, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So we're talking about like energy fields and stuff?
Exactly. We're talking about the idea that there's more to reality than what we can see and touch. You know, like those studies in quantum mechanics, they're showing that observation, the act of just looking at something, can actually change the behavior of tiny particles.
Wait, really? Just by looking at something?
That's what the research is suggesting. It's pretty mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of freaking me out a little.
But how does that connect back to our guy at the Pool of Bethesda?
Well, what if the man's belief, his deep desire for healing, created some kind of energetic opening? Or what if Jesus, through his focused intention, directed a flow of healing energy towards him?
So we're talking about a level of reality beyond what we normally see, where our thoughts and intentions actually have power.
That's the idea. It's like the story is giving us a glimpse into a realm where the power of consciousness is not just some abstract concept, but a real force.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. It's like the pool represented hope, but the real change was happening on a deeper level, a level that maybe we don't fully understand yet. Right, it's like the difference between focusing on the external solution, the pool, versus tapping into an internal source of power.
Which makes me think about things like energy healing and meditation. Are those kind of like modern-day versions of what's happening in this story?
Absolutely. And energy healing practitioners work with these subtle energy fields, using their intention and focused awareness to help facilitate healing.
So they're kind of like channeling energy.
In a way, yes. And in meditation, the focus is on calming the mind, reaching a state of stillness where we can become more receptive to these subtler energies.
So maybe these ancient stories, they're not just stories. They're like encoded with wisdom about how reality actually works.
I love that way of putting it. They're offering us insights into the deeper mechanics of the universe, the interconnectedness of everything, and the potential we all have to tap into those energies.
Okay, that's amazing. But it raises a big question, and I'm sure our listeners are wondering the same thing. If this kind of healing is possible, why isn't it happening all the time? Why wasn't everyone at the pool healed that day?
That's a question that has baffled people for centuries. And honestly, there are no easy answers. But from a metaphysical perspective, there are a few ways we can look at it.
Okay, let's hear them.
One possibility is that everyone's spiritual journey is unique. We all have our own lessons to learn, our own karmic patterns to work through, and those might involve experiencing challenges, even suffering.
So it's not about deserving healing or not, but rather that our experiences, even the tough ones, are part of a bigger picture.
Exactly. Like we're each weaving our own tapestry with all the threads, the light and the dark, contributing to the overall design.
I like that analogy. But still, it's hard to wrap your head around sometimes, especially when you see innocent people suffering.
I know, it's a tough one. And that's where concepts like free will and choice come in. Maybe on some deeper level, we choose the experiences that help our souls grow, not in a conscious way, but through a deeper, more intuitive knowing.
So it's not just about divine intervention or fate, but also about our own inner alignment and choices.
Right. It's a delicate dance between grace, free will, and the deeper purpose woven into our individual journeys.
Okay, that makes sense. And you know what? The story itself hints at this balance, too. Remember, the man needed help to even get to the pool, but the healing ultimately came from that direct encounter with Jesus.
Yes, it's like he needed the support, the belief of others, but the real transformation happened within him.
So it's not either, it's both. We can seek external support, try different healing modalities, but ultimately, we have to choose to step into our own power.
Exactly. We're not just passive recipients of healing, we're active participants in the process.
We have more agency than we often realize. And speaking of different approaches to healing, isn't it interesting how this story resonates with healing practices in other traditions, too?
It absolutely does. Like Reiki, for instance, where practitioners channel universal life force energy, similar to the angels stirring the pool.
Right. And in Hinduism, there's prana, the vital life force that flows through everything.
It's like this story, while rooted in a specific religious context, is tapping into a universal archetype.
The suffering individual, the sacred source of healing, the powerful healer. We see these elements across cultures, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, we're all connected to a deeper, shared wellspring of healing energy.
I truly believe we are, and I think that's what makes this story so powerful. It speaks to something fundamental about being human, our capacity for healing and wholeness, and the journey we all undertake to reclaim it.
So after diving deep into all these layers of meaning, what are some key takeaways from our exploration of the Pool of Bethesda? What can we, our listeners, really hold on to?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that healing is about so much more than just fixing the physical body.
Right. It's about addressing the whole person, mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly. And it's a process, often a long and winding one, with its ups and downs, its moments of progress and setbacks.
It's not a one-time event, it's a journey. And sometimes it's about learning to embrace the journey itself, even the messy parts.
I love that. And equally important, we're not powerless in this process. We have choices to make, intentions to set, and an inner wellspring of healing potential to tap into.
The Pool of Bethesda, in a way, represents that potential. The space within each of us where transformation can happen.
Exactly. Instead of always looking outside ourselves for a miracle cure, maybe we need to turn inward to cultivate those qualities of faith, intention, and openness that allow healing to flow.
So we're not just waiting for something to happen, we're actively participating in creating our own healing.
Now you're getting it. It's a powerful reminder that we have more agency than we often realize.
That's a lot to take in, though I think our listeners might need a moment to process all this incredible information.
You're right, we have covered a lot of ground. So before we wrap up our deep dive, let's leave our listeners with a final thought to ponder.
What if we imagine, like, the Pool of Bethesda, not just as this physical place, but as a, kind of a metaphor.
A metaphor. I like where you're going with this.
Like a metaphor for a way of being.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
A state of being where we're, like, aligned with that healing power, that deeper reality we've been talking about all this time.
It's like instead of searching for an external fix, it's about cultivating that internal space where healing can just, well, flourish.
It's almost like we all have the potential to create our own pools inside us.
Our own inner sanctuaries, you could say.
Yeah, exactly. Places of deep connection where, real transformation happens.
And maybe that's exactly what the man at the pool experienced.
Not just his legs getting better, but something way deeper.
Right, like a total shift in consciousness, coming back into alignment with his true self, his wholeness.
So it wasn't just Jesus' power working on him, but like a collaboration.
Right, a meeting point.
Yeah, meeting point of divine energy and the man's own willingness to receive it.
Exactly. And it begs the question, doesn't it? What if that potential is within all of us? What if we all have access to that healing power?
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff.
Yeah.
So how do we do it? How do we access that power?
Well, I think it starts by cultivating the right conditions internally, the right mindset, the right energetic environment.
So it's not just about, like, wishing to be healed. It's about actively creating the space for it to happen.
Precisely. It's a radical idea, isn't it?
It is. It means we have way more power than we often think.
We're not just victims of circumstance, we're active participants in our own healing.
And that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons from the Pool of Bethesda. It's not just a story. It's a reflection of our own potential for healing and transformation.
Beautifully said. I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. It challenges us to look inward, to discover our own personal pools, those practices or beliefs that connect us to that wellspring of well-being that's always there.
It could be so many things, right? Like
Yeah.
spending time in nature, meditating, doing something creative, helping others.
Absolutely. Anything that shifts our awareness, that helps us align with something bigger than ourselves.
And sometimes it's about recognizing those unexpected moments of grace, those sudden shifts in perspective that can lead to profound healing.
Like the man at the pool, we might be focused on one thing, expecting healing to come from a certain source, but then, bam, it shows up in a way we never could have predicted.
So it's about staying open, trusting the process, and knowing that healing, well, it doesn't always follow a straight line.
It can be messy, unpredictable. It can unfold in ways that surprise us.
But even when things are tough, even when we can't see the whole picture, we can still hold on to that trust, that deep knowing that healing is always possible.
That's a beautiful reminder, and it brings us so much hope because it means we're not alone in this. We're all connected to that same source of healing energy, that infinite well of possibility.
It's like we're all swimming in the same ocean, being carried by the same current.
Exactly. And that current is always flowing towards wholeness, towards healing, towards remembering who we truly are,
And that's what it's all about, right? Not just fixing what's broken, but remembering our wholeness.
reclaiming that connection to the source of healing that's always within us.
I think that's the ultimate invitation of the Pool of Bethesda story, to really dive deep into our own inner worlds, explore the mysteries of healing, and discover the incredible potential for transformation that's waiting for us.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that was a powerful journey, wasn't it? It's like we've been given a map, a guide to navigate our own healing journeys.
Absolutely. And I hope our listeners feel inspired to embark on that exploration, to discover their own personal pools, and to embrace the incredible journey that unfolds when we open ourselves to the possibility of healing.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Pool of Bethesda. We hope it sparked some curiosity, expanded your understanding of healing, and maybe even ignited a sense of hope and possibility. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. Until next time.